Hi, Analisa Six here with the April 2023 horoscope for the sign of Pisces, coming at you from the Lady of Leisure discombobulated corner of my house. I would say headquarters, but that just sounds stupid. And the Sober Curator, which I love. Sober Curator is great. I'm so grateful to be able to be a part of such an amazing platform. Um, Pisces, can I just say that by the time I get to you, I'm so fried and so tired, but also so relieved to be at the end of the zodiac, because I do all of these in order of the signs. And unfortunately, Pisces, you're the last sign. So you get me at my most tired and my most burnout. And I apologize for that because I love you. I love Pisces. I have a Pisces moon. It took me a long time to understand Pisces energy. I will be honest. I used to make fun of Pisces a lot before I found out that I was one. I'm a Leo, but Pisces moon. I'm equally Pisces as well. Probably more Leo than Pisces in a lot of ways, but I love my Pisces. I love my Pisces energy now that I understand it and know what it's all about. But yeah, so I'm fading and I'm a huge nerd and I'm really dorky, and I'm sorry if it's hard to get through or if you don't care. I don't really care. I do this anyways because it's fun for me. Okay, so we're going to talk about Aries season. Congrats, you made it to another astrological year. We're here and we're in the springtime. We're out of your season. Pisces was a cold season. Oh my God, it was so cold. It's April 8th. I'm behind on the horoscope, so there's some things that have shifted since the beginning of the month, but I'll cover them anyways. We entered April with the sun in Aries. We had Jupiter in Aries, Vesta in Aries, and Mercury in Aries, and Chiron in Aries. So still a lot of Aries energy. We also had a full moon happen on April 6th in Libra. And by the time the full moon happened on the 6th, Mercury had already made its way into Taurus and joined the Taurus party with Uranus, Juno, and Venus. So Venus, Juno, Uranus, and Mercury are all in Taurus as of today. We have Mars in Cancer. Jupiter, I already said Jupiter was in Aries. And then we have Saturn in your sign still of Pisces, because Saturn's going to be in Pisces for the next couple of years. And then we have Neptune in Pisces too. So we still have some Pisces energy. And then Pluto in Aquarius. So that's where everybody's at the beginning of April. Let's talk about where Aries energy is still hitting for Pisces. So we have a big emphasis on your income, your relationship to money, but also your relationship to material stability and what that means to you. And that also has to do with our self-worth. And so Aries, highlighting this area, brings kind of a big light onto, oh, my dog's down there, brings a big light onto your finances and also how you initiate creating a life of structure and stability around your finances for yourself, and then also what you feel like you're worthy of. So if you've been reflecting a lot on self-worth, am I making enough? Am I making what I see myself worthy of? Is my life reflecting this sense of stability that I want it to? Those are all big themes for you as these planets are making their way through Aries. And with Jupiter here, you might feel a need to level up in that way. You know, if you've been making a certain amount and you're like, I've put my time in and I really feel like it's time for me to level up with my income in some way, shape, or form, Jupiter's there to kind of emphasize that and push you towards that. And then the sun is there shining a big light on that too. Mercury and Venus and Juno and Uranus and this whole Taurus party that we have going on is in your house of communication for the horoscope. So what does that mean? Communication gets a big, huge highlight. And because Venus and Juno are here with Mercury, there's an emphasis on how we communicate in relationships with others. So it could be romantic partners, marriage partners, contractual partnerships like business partners, or it could be friendships. You know, either way, we're working on our communication. And Taurus is a very practical sign. Practical and pragmatic is just what I always say. And so when we think about Pisces is not. So let's just clarify that right now. Pisces is not. And as somebody that has Pisces in my house of communication, the way that I talk, like the way that I talk in these horoscopes is very Piscean. And, you know, I have Mercury and Virgo in my ninth house. So I do have the ability to kind of talk in more practical ways or grounded ways. But the Piscean moon side of me that has the third house moon Pisces energy is where I say a lot of the same things in multiple ways. So a linear person might say it once in one way. I might say the same thing. Like I'm doing it now, you know, I just said one thing in a linear way and then I'm expanding upon it and explaining it. That's a very Virgo, Mercury Virgo thing, and a very Piscean thing to do, is to feel like you need to explain things. And Taurus is a lot more like, here are the facts. So, you know, if we're learning as a Piscean dominant person that we need to be less explanatory or less feeling centered in our explanations, then Taurus is the energy that we would be, you know, really getting our bearings around how do we do that in a more grounded way. So one of the things that, you know, like would help me, for example, like this is just an example of how that could be utilized, is prior to doing my horoscopes, I write the facts down first before just having a stream of consciousness. But you know what I've learned about myself being wired the way that I'm wired is no matter what I write down, I'm going to end up, it's helpful, obviously, for me to have notes that remind me to stay on task, but I'm going to go off on tangents anyways. It's just what happens. But Taurus are more like slow speakers. You know, it's more, let's be intentional and methodical and take longer to say this thing. And for me, that's hard. I don't know. I don't know if other Pisces people feel that way. Or even just other modalities of communication. But it's hard sometimes for me to speak in a slower way or in a more methodical, grounded way. And for me, I think the Sagittarius quality of myself has a really hard time with basic facts, because I'm a question asker. I like to ask questions about everything. So if somebody tells me this is how it is, but why? And yeah, I know it's annoying, but if you're a Pisces, you probably get it, because it's not interesting to me unless I understand how it works. I think math was always really boring to me because it's so factual. It's like 2 + 2 = 4, done. You know, here's a division problem that's complicated, but it's done. Like there's no depth to it to me and the way that my brain works. Obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of mathematicians out there that would argue that there's a lot of depth to math. Math in the context of astrology, you know, like astrology is all math. Like these are numbers, you know, these numbers mean something to me outside of just what they do. Right? It's an archetypal, deeper spiritual thing. And that's interesting to me because that's how Pisces works. Like you want that depth to everything, but Taurus doesn't need that depth to everything necessarily. And it's not to say that Taurus isn't deep. I know plenty of really esoteric, deep, expansive Taurus dominant people that love to do this and talk and go there. But Taurus as an archetype itself tends to be more realistic and more what is tangible, you know, and that's good, because people that don't have that can sometimes do the word salad where they talk in circles too much, right? Which I'm very guilty of. I could say the same thing 5 million different ways forever, and I can talk all day. Those that know me, that talk to me all day, know that. So the point in me expressing that is that Mercury and Venus passing through the 3rd house of the horoscope for Pisces, it's a great time to learn how to have more practical, grounded, slow, factual communication and not let the emotions or all of the extra things get in the way of what just needs to be figured out and said, right? Venus is going to leave the Taurus party on the 11th and enter Gemini. And she's going to make a trine that day to Pluto in Aquarius. And this is happening in the area of the chart that represents family and the subconscious. And so we're going to have kind of this emphasis on the 11th for the Pisces dominant person that, you know, really brings maybe some things to the surface that we need to heal and work through around family dynamics. Venus passing through the area of home, it's a great time to do any kind of like aesthetically pleasing things in the home. Like if you want to, redecorate or buy new furniture or art, for your home, or paint a new room, it's really great for that. Also connecting to family, if we're feeling like we really need to be close to family members, this is a really positive time for that. So after the 11th, we're going to really be leaning into that. Mars and Saturn also made a trine at the beginning of April. So Mars is in Cancer right now. And, Cancer energy makes a trine to Pisces. So water likes water. And this is in the area of self-expression, creative expression, getting in touch with our inner child. It's also our desire to be romantic. And so with Mars here, we might be getting this boost of energy towards really needing creative projects, artistic projects, and things that kind of get us connected to joy and our inner child in a passionate way. Passion projects should be your tagline for April and the beginning of May, the first half of May, with Mars passing through here. Passion projects. What are you passionate about? How do you express yourself? What makes you passionate about living life? And how can you bring your emotional healing journey into that? I think for Pisces people, having a really strong connection to music and art is a healing thing. I know for me, like that's what drew me to music and songwriting, is it felt very cathartic and healing. And for me, like I'm definitely like a tortured artist archetype with my Pisces energy. I think a lot of Pisces people have kind of a tortured artist in them with their art or their creativity. And so you might be feeling that, you might want to listen to a lot of Lana Del Rey and light some candles and do some art. That's a vibe right now for the Pisces person in April. And, at trining Saturn, it might be bringing some of those things up for you that have been buried or hidden away with where Saturn has been kind of aspecting. So, it's Saturn in this area too can kind of bring us some heaviness or blockages around our identity. And so where Mars is, it's like wanting to break through those blockages and make it more empowering. So yeah, it's a good time to kind of work on personal empowerment through creativity. I'm watching my dog being really cute right now. It's very distracting. So at the beginning of April, a couple days ago on the 6th, we had a full moon in Libra, and it was at 16 degrees Libra. So it's the 8th today. So it's already long gone, but not really, not that far away. The moon is in Scorpio now, but we're still vibing off the full moon. And where that hit in the chart for the Pisces horoscope was shared assets and resources, and sex and death and rebirth and marriage and all those things. So if we were feeling a need to connect to our partner, or reflect on how we're utilizing our assets, if we own a home or we have investments, if we're buying a home, selling a home, if there's things going on in that, the full moon was highlighting a lot of that stuff. If there's things around that you are working on that you need to call in certain energy into manifesting a certain situation for yourself, the full moon was a good time to do that. So like setting intentions for how you wanted that stuff to go. Especially like if you're in a divorce, that Libra energy there, letting things go. It's a big theme there. If you're not in a divorce and you're in a marriage, negotiating, working on those things, working on how your assets are working for you is a big theme. And if you want to take on more assets, with your partner, that's also something. And inheritance could have come up, or how you're utilizing that. And, I think that our sexual identity comes up during full moons that make their way through this area of the house. Sometimes we really need to connect to ourselves sexually in an empowered way, our sexual creative energy. At the end of the month, we have a solar eclipse on April 20th at 29 degrees Aries. And so that's going to be influencing that financial area one last time. And it's an eclipse. And so whatever we're kind of working towards with the finances and self-worth around that, there's a big push to make some changes on the 20th. And it's going to affect the changes that the catalyst of change that comes, whether we pushed it or not, just whatever happens, is going to influence the next 6 months. After that, the sun and moon will move into Taurus. We'll enter Taurus season. Happy birthday, all the Tauruses. And then we will kind of have this little new moon energy lingering in the sign of Taurus, which is another good time to set intentions for things that you want to call into the physical. And it's going to be entering that communication area for the Pisces horoscope. So again, if you know that you struggle with more of this fact-based practical communication, you could set a good intention on the 20th around that, because what also is going to happen is the 21st, the day after, Mercury, our planet of communication, is going to station retrograde in Taurus, and will be retrograde in Taurus until May 15th. And so we will really be working on our communication after the sun and moon move into Taurus during this time. So that's a big theme, the communication dynamics for Pisces. So it's really hard to not get caught up in how things make us feel. Like, one of the things that happens to me with a Pisces moon in the third house is that sometimes people say things to me and the way that it makes me feel is not how they intended it. And it doesn't matter to me what they intended to mean, even if it was a joke or if it wasn't meant to hurt my feelings. That doesn't matter. I still need somebody to apologize or validate the fact that it wasn't a nice thing to say, or it didn't make me feel the way that they intended. Once they validate that, once they say, I understand that what I said made you feel that way, and I'm sorry, and I didn't mean it, I love you, hugs, then I can say, okay, I forgive you, let's move on. And I can look at the facts, which was that that's not how they intended it, and I will take their word for it. But if I don't get that validation that it hurt me, if I'm told, well, I didn't mean to hurt you, so therefore you shouldn't be hurt, that is a form of gaslighting, and it's not an appropriate communication dynamic when it comes to appropriate relationship communication dynamics. Like, it's not a nice way to treat people that we care about. And I'm not saying this because this is my belief system. I mean, it is my belief system, and I'm sure there's plenty of people that disagree with me, but these are things I've learned in therapy, in like books that I've read about how to have healthy communication. These are ways that I've been coached on how to have healthy communication. And so, these are actual things. It's not just me saying like, oh, well, you should have to apologize to me because you didn't mean it. It's like, I've learned that people are more willing to forgive and let go if they feel validated, that they feel a certain way. Like, it's important for us to validate feelings. And that's really important to Pisces. Pisces really needs feelings validated before they can move on to the facts. It's like, I can say, yes, factually, you did not mean that, and that was not your intention, but it happened for me. That's my reality. My reality is hurt. And if you dismiss my hurt and you tell me that I'm wrong because you didn't mean it, then I'm just going to tell you to go fuck yourself. Basically, I'm going to be like, cool, my feelings don't matter, and you feel entitled to speak to anybody however the way you want, and it's their problem. And there's people that believe that. There's people that say I should be able to speak however I want, and if it hurts you, that's your problem. And they're not wrong. However, if you want to have constructive relationships with people, and you want people to want to be around you and hang out with you and be there for you, and then if that person accidentally hurts your feelings and you want them to validate that person's probably not going to be super inclined to validate you or want to give you that room if you're not willing to give it to them. And if you think everybody should just eat whatever you throw down with however you're feeling any day, right? Pisces people need a lot of that coddling. I know that's a turnoff word. I like a lot of turnoff words. I'm not really in this, like, I don't want to say I'm not in a PC place, because I definitely care about that stuff. But there's some words that, like, people are getting really like, I don't like that word because it makes me feel a certain way. And I understand that, because obviously I'm talking about that same subject, but I've had that projected onto me where it's like, because that person has a negative relationship with the word, I should have that negative relationship with that word. And I just don't. And so I acknowledge that there's some words that I don't mind using that don't feel negative to me. Like, I know as a Pisces moon that I have a lot of emotional needs. I know that I do need coddling sometimes. I know that I need a partner and friends that are sensitive to those needs. And I also know that not everybody is equipped to handle that. And so I know that I'm not I'm an acquired taste for some people in that way because I like talking about that stuff, right? I'm not as dry or practical as people that are more on that side of things. And I know it's something that I have to consciously work at, just like dry and more linear, practical people have to work on being more vulnerable and more emotional. It's like all of it's important, right? All of it's valid. All of it is meant to help us in the bigger picture. And it's all about balance and integration of these things. And so I don't like anything that's to throw the baby out with the bathwater with certain things, not everything. I think there are some babies that need to get thrown out with the bathwater when it comes to some words and communication, obviously. But I also feel like it's okay to admit that you're sensitive or that you have emotional intelligence or that you need to be coddled or that you're needy sometimes or that you need more care in communication than other people might. I think that's a strength. And, you know, while it can sometimes get in the way of these more factual, linear things that we have to, as like Pisces dominant people, have to consciously work on, it's also our gift in certain moments, right? Like if there's somebody that really needs that empathy and that container, we have that ability to give that, you know? And if there's somebody else that's more gifted in being linear, they have that gift to give, you know, and there's a time and a place for all of it. It's not like a, this is bad or that's bad or this is right or this is right. You know, different situations call for different things. I think that I tend to enjoy being in the astrological community because my communication style and the way that I like to explain and express things tends to fit really well in the astrological community, does not in a lot of other communities. You know, so it's you know, we all have our thing. So for you Pisces, don't discredit your emotional world and what you have to bring to the table, but be open to embracing a different communication style like Taurus that is more grounded and dry and factual and less overflowing, I guess is the word that I think of. Hope that's helpful. I will see you next month and have a great April. Happy spring.